Details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Okay, we're going to crank it up here a bit here on the Life Advice, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. There's a level. We had one that was pretty interesting, Kyle, but I don't know. I don't know how deep into the abyss I want to go with some of the topics. So we'll go a little PG-13 here with this one. Okay, love the podcast. My one critique is that you are having the wrong effect on Kyle. Sometimes when I'm feeling really awful, I just want to hear your life advice, and his timestamps are always in the wrong places. Wow. Just coming at Kyle. What's that all about?
You know what? Let me just explain this to America. This is called dynamic ad insertion, which means we don't bake these ads in anymore. This is a new way of making money. So I don't know what ads are going in, and they're going to change from time to time. So I'm going to get it as close as I can. And other than that, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Okay. There you go, Kyle. And that's Kyle hitting you with the truth, America. So there you go. Like that. Okay. He said he was just messing around. All right, here we go. College student 21, about to graduate in the spring. I've already been accepted to a job as an engineer programmer starting in next August. I just want to email in because I think I need help, but I'm not sure what to do. My first problem is I smoke weed a fuck ton. Basically every day during breaks like this holiday break. I just had a recent breakup with my ex-girlfriend of 1.5 years, and I used my use has upticked a lot since then. I've quit for stretches like 3+ months long when I needed to focus on school and stuff, but I always come back to it. I think it just helps me with that anxiety and terrible guilt I feel all the time. My second problem is that I'm addicted and obsessed with sex. I'm not saying this to brag or anything because I seriously feel really ashamed and awful inside. It's actually not hard to find people who want to have sex if you scour the message boards on Craigslist, join anonymous groups in your area, and swipe a lot on Tinder. Obviously, this has all gone down during the pandemic, and I abstained from all of this during my relationship. So he wants to let us know he's not a cheater, but he's just super into weed and knocking boots. But when I am single, it goes really out of control. I think so often about sex that I even sometimes think it would be so cool to be in porn or something where I could even get paid. Okay. That would be a pivot from the engineering stuff. And
Totally.
I think there's probably a lot of people. Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of people that would be more interested, but just family reunions alone, weddings, they'd be like, hey, how's work? That's Rick. He does porn. And he comes over, he's like, hey, everybody. Like, hey, Rick, we're all going to talk about you as soon as you walk away. All right. So, I think that's why probably more people that would do it. But, again, family reunions, jamming dudes up. All right. I think I need to seek help for this, but I'm not sure exactly what the risks are for this behavior since I'm always very careful about protection. The thing is, there haven't been any negative consequences so far of my behavior. I always know when to cut the degenerate shit out and focus when it comes to school. I earned a 3.82 GPA majoring in engineering. Shout out high GPAs out there. All of you. Pour one out. Minoring in math. Engineering is not easy, as anyone who's never taken a class can attest to. I am moving to California for my job after graduation where weed is legal, and I think this might make it worse for me. Not sure what to do. Also, I think it'd be awesome to hook up with girls in California, especially those I could smoke with. So literally in one sentence, you're worried about it, and you're like, man, I can't wait to get going and just smoke a ton of weed out there. Is living this kind of lifestyle sustainable? No, is the quickest answer. I've come into work high numerous times in the past couple of years and no one ever notices. Sometimes I almost relate really hard to Justin Blackman or Josh Gordon. Okay. I have a talent and skill in science and research and engineering, but I can't get out of my own way with this shit and it's going to catch up to me. Do you have any friends that live like this? Not anymore. No, you start at 45, the number of guys that you're friends with you're like, yeah, you know what? Actually, Reese Davis was out of control. No, I'm just kidding. I was just trying to think of a random name that would be the absolute last guy that you would ever think of this. So let's not do the obvious stuff. Okay. That's not where we're coming here. Because the obvious stuff would just say, hey man, stop smoking so much weed. Don't do this stuff. It's not safe. Okay. Because you already know that. You're clearly a smart guy. 3.82. What's up? But you're having some guilt about it, right? You're feeling a little guilty about it. Okay. So, I lived with guys that the last apartment I think I ever lived in, I think it was the end of 02 into 03. And then at the start of 03, I lived on a friend's couch for about 3 months until I finally moved into a place of my own. And I haven't had a roommate ever since. And the reason I went to go sleep on this guy's couch is because I was at one point, prior to that move, I was living in this kind of dumpy area of Boston with a couple other guys. And everybody likes to smoke weed. It was never my thing, but I'm telling you, like, I could see it. Like, if they didn't have weed around, it wasn't going to happen. Now, we all know that of all the things you could do, weed is not even close to being the worst one. I'm not going to turn this into a pro cannabis podcast, but what I'm just telling you is like, look, it wasn't ever anything I was interested in. It just wasn't. Didn't do it for me. Yes, if people decided to just smoke weed at night and not get shit faced, then people probably be a lot safer and all that. Like, I don't feel like debating any of those things because I think most of us just get it without getting to any of that point. So it could be a phase. It could be a phase. You could be 21. Oh my God, I smoke weed all the time. Then it's like 25, 26. You kind of get it out of your system. You start to feel more guilt that you're already feeling at 21. I mean, the fact you're even feeling any guilt at 21 and you don't think you're awesome for doing this, I actually think is a really good sign. That's a good sign that you already, like, the fact that you sent in this email. I would say most guys in your situation right now wouldn't even think they were doing anything wrong. And if they did and didn't really know what to do, they wouldn't even write the email. So I'd actually give yourself a little pat on the back for going, hey, you know what? This probably isn't cool. Because eventually it's not going to be cool. Okay. Eventually it isn't going to be cool. Eventually you are going to find somebody on Craigslist. You're going to end up in a parking lot with no pants on and your wallet missing. Okay. I don't know how you even mess with those sites. I'm not talking about the mainstream dating websites, but some of that classified stuff out there that creeps on the internet. I don't know. I mean, if that's your thing and it's worked out for you, all right. But clearly you don't like doing it all the time. Clearly, even though you like being high, you know that you can't keep doing this all the time and showing up to work and nobody noticing it. Like, it actually makes sense, especially for like somebody who's engineering and math and you're probably just figuring stuff out and nobody would notice. But I remember, let me put it this way. For those of you that are younger and you've made some kind of mistake, and it doesn't even have to be a huge mistake. You know what I mean? You get too drunk on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and your family's pissed at you because you're hungover and they're giving you a hard time. Or, maybe something that's not the most serious, but a little bit more serious happened. The older people in your life are going to be giving you a lot of shit for it, or at least they should be. They are, because they've been around. And this is the part where being older, where the person who's been around is right. And they're doing this because they care about you, and they're getting on your case because they've seen bad things happen to friends or loved ones throughout their life. Because what will happen with most people is you go through this phase and then you're out of it. And that's what it is. But the older people are always worried about the people that get progressively worse. And it's not a phase that, hey, I'm smoking weed every day and I'm doing this. And then it's like, okay, but when you start to form these bad habits, you either get so sick of them that you break them, or this is just the foundation of a really fucked up lifestyle for the next 10, 20 years. I'm serious with this stuff. It's kind of like, an older person can see a young guy, drink, and then he'll be like, hey, you know what? Like, I've got buddies. And the first thing the young guy says is, oh, fuck off. Like, get away from me. I don't want to hear it. Like, give me a break. Just because you guys in WWII, like, I don't want to hear it. But what that guy is doing is saying, hey, you have some tendencies here, or you have something going on with you that if you don't correct this, that it's going to end up being a much bigger problem. And so that's where you got to kind of give shout out to the older people, because they've seen bad stuff happen to relatives. They've seen stuff happen where it was when the guy was in his 20s and doing stuff that was kind of stupid. You know what it isn't? It's just, it's not stupid anymore in your 30s. It's just like a total turnoff. So, maybe you have a couple more years in you of this. Maybe the guilt won't kick in. But if you're turning like 29 and 30 and you're still doing this all the time and you're single and your buddies aren't calling you back as much, or your family's kind of like, what the hell's going on? And then maybe one day you smoke a ton of weed before you go to work and somebody smells it on you. Now all of a sudden people are like, hey, that's the guy that smokes weed every day that he comes into work. And maybe no one will care in California. I don't know. But the fact that you even are thinking this right now is probably a positive. But for anyone else listening, I think there's always this, most times, most people can screw around for a little while, get it out of their system, and then they're kind of good to go. And yeah, there's always this grass is always greener. Like, oh, maybe I got married too early, or maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have. Look, after I read the Motley Crue book, I was like, I don't think I go out enough. But I know that in working in bars and having an extended adolescence myself, that there will be people around you where you're like, this is funny until it isn't really funny anymore. And that's when it becomes a much bigger bummer or much more of a guilt-ridden existence than anything you're going through right now. So maybe in a year, maybe at 25, maybe at 30, you're over it. But if it's 35 and like shit didn't feel like it worked out, whose fault is it? Kyle?
Well, I'd say really only on the weed part of this. When you get to California, you're not going to be able to stay out of the shops because it's so cool coming from a place where it's not legal. That's fine. But then it becomes, I think, sort of like a bottle of whiskey on the shelf. Like it's not like all the time. It's just sort of like you keep it in a box and you go to it. I think that part will probably fall away. And then the last part, even though you think nobody knows at work, sometimes I think maybe somebody knows. I worked with a guy who thought nobody knows. And when he left, he was like, that guy was always high. And I was like, yeah, that's so funny. He thought nobody knew. So that's all I'll say.
That's great. That's great. All right. I love that. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, here we go. Let me set the stage for you. I'm 34, father of two, beautiful morning. He's in Celebration, Florida. Take my kids to our local outdoor courts. That's right, they have courts in Florida. I still want to know what Florida's doing. What's going on down there? They just decide like, hey, we're just pretending nothing's going on. Okay, my kids are 3 and 6. We get there in empty court, perfect. I'm shooting around. My kids are riding their scooters. And in this moment, life's really good. About 20 minutes in, cool guy, maybe 20, pulls up on the mom and dad Mercedes. Okay, all right. Rocking some Nike Monarchs, black tee, black shorts, some gray tights underneath. My man pulls out a huge Bluetooth speaker and moseys onto the court like he owns a joint, sets up his speaker and proceeds to play some hardcore rap music. My guy was clearly ready to hoop. Now, look, I'm not so far out of my youth that I can't appreciate some good music while getting some shots up. All right, we're all on the same page. But my guy clearly sees me out there with both my kids and thinks to himself, I bet this dad and his 2 kids are really wanting to listen to some Little Yachty or whatever else he chose to play. Regardless, I'm at a loss for words. I don't want to come across as the old man telling the kid not to turn his music off. But what is the guy supposed to do in this situation? What is the proper court etiquette? By the way, P.S., my guy was trash. I'm 34 with 2 kids and would have smoked him.
Did he say Monarchs?
Yeah. Why?
Is he talking about Air Monarchs?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think he was talking about?
My dad wears those to walk around. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually. Yeah. What the fuck? My mind is blown now. Great call, Kyle. Why was he wearing? If he's 20, Little Yachty, gray tights underneath. Did he describe them as gray Flint tights? No, just gray tights. I was going to say this is an incredible email. All right, tough one. Dilemma. This is a dilemma. My first instinct after reading the email is that once he sucked, then you tell him to turn it down. And if you were really good, if you were really, like, I'm serious, the first thing I thought, I was like, oh, if he sucked, yeah, tell him to turn it down. I was like, if he looks like he's got some game, the handle's kind of tight, he's hitting some fadeaways, he's kind of looking down every now and then to see if you saw that he hit a, ridiculous pull up off the dribble, then you gotta respect it and, just have your kids listen to Little Yachty for the day. Tough one, because, there's an element of being young where you just like fuck everybody else. You just are. And it's lame. I remember one time we went to a movie once and it was so stupid what we were doing. We were like throwing a football around in a movie theater and we thought it was funny. We were like 20. And I still think about it 25 years later. And I was like, that's such a shitty thing that you did. And we just didn't care. It was like a dumb movie. And we started throwing a football around. We thought it was hilarious. And now I still feel bad about it 25 years later because like some older guy was like, all right, dude. And he was right. And that's what, I don't know. I don't know why guys do that. Sometimes you're trying to show off for girls when you're at that age. I mean, look, that doesn't necessarily stop, but I guess there's a way you could have said, hey dude, look, I totally get it. And then you start trying to like connect with them. Like, is that the new DaBaby? Oh, no, my bad. Yeah. No, that shit's fire, just like your Monarchs. So I guess there's kind of a way you could approach it. But the problem is if the guy is that ridiculous about it, he's probably not going to be cool about it either. Like if he's willing to size up the situation and then go, all right, well, now I'm going to crank up this hardcore rap early in the morning while there's what he's talking about, a 3 and a 6-year-old, and he has no self-awareness on that he thinks what he's doing is cool. If you go to approach him, he's probably going to piss you off even more and be like, whatever, man, I need my beats. Because there is a development now with all the Bluetooth stuff and the speakers and all. Like, I think it's cool that music is everywhere. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't need this much music everywhere. And
The beach.
yeah, the beach part is the beach where I'm at. It's not that bad. It's more like the bike path. Like everybody's cranking, but again, when the bike passes you, it's not like you're listening to it the entire time. But there's just been a growth in hearing other people's music with the access to smaller and smaller Bluetooth speakers. So I think you could have turned it down a little bit. I mean, the other thing you could do, so you don't have to ever confront that if you're on the Hooper side of this thing, like wear some earbuds, man. I mean, come on. There's like a million different
wireless
kinds right now. Yeah, wireless. You don't have to worry about. I mean, I was sitting there tucking an iPod into my back pocket of my shorts, then running the wire down the back my spine into it to try to keep as much freedom on my shot as possible. And then, of course, like any movement that was, trying to do something else. When I was trying to perfect that Kobe fake baseline dribble, baseline turn thing where he leaves the ball in the air, turns back to the middle, and then comes back and grabs the basketball baseline and cuts. I think I worked on that for 6 months once. I was in my 20s. May have tried it in a pickup game twice. So feel like that wasn't the most efficient use of my time. But you kind of can't win on these because it's all on the other guy. And if the other guy's a total shithead about it, then you're going to be even more mad. And next thing you know, you're beating up a 21-year-old or 20-year-old in front of your kids. So, you could give a look. You could give a look like, hey, hey, what's going on? But then he might just think, hey, what does this old fool want? Does he want to run? Do you want to play to 11? And or you could have said, hey, how about if I beat you to 11? You turn that down and you leave. Retirement game. There's a lot of options. But we all know, anyone that's been through this, you all know, the chances are that 21-year-old or 20-year-old, I don't know why I keep rounding up here, that guy doesn't listen. The fact that he already did all of this stuff and he's got all this gear on, and he sucked. If he really did suck and was wearing this kind of gear, like the conversation with this guy isn't going to go anywhere anyway. So I don't know. That's tough. I'll tell you, though, there's times like when I go to play hoops and you have like full court ready to go. And if there's a dad with his kids, you want to be like, okay, look, I'll give you 30 minutes, but, you could probably have your 3-year-old shoot a ball a foot in the air on the grass too. You could, there's probably another place you could not accomplish anything and not take up the court for the entire afternoon also. So, it's a tough one because people get real selfish, some of you probably think I'm wrong. I think there should be a time limit. Like I've done it. I've sat it out and waited. I've seen a guy with his sons play in hold up fives. I've said, hey, look, they were here first. Let's see how long it goes. And you wait, you kind of shoot around a little bit. Then you can sort of do this deal where you're playing half court and your half court game starts to creep further and further past the half court line. Yes. Next thing you know, you're like, wait, is the tide coming up here? Like, no, we're just slowly forcing you off of this court here. But, if a guy's there with his kids, you got to respect it up into a point, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I went way too long on this one. So there you go. I think we covered every angle without coming up with a clear solution. Please spread the word. Subscribe to the Ryen Russillo podcast. Ringer, Spotify. We'll be ready to go previewing Wild Card Weekend. Also doing something with Kevin Clark and the Ringer for the Wild Card deal. I'm going to be doing a live show with them on Saturday. I'll have all the details. I'm pretty sure I was already given all the details, but I'll look at them and then say exactly when they are on Friday's podcast. So be on the lookout for that one as well.